OMG, so giving a little bit of flexibility.
Yeah, a little bit of flexibility and the Milio alongside it. So
this is the
very
tried and
early
true
rotation
OMG
here.
combo.
Yeah, it is very, very, very powerful. We know how obnoxious Milio can be into a lot of the engage supports. So we'll see if LNG kind of adapt around that, or whether or not they kind of go into a slightly more full send mode. But what the Tristana also does is not only can it potentially match in the mid lane into the Nico and Scout, but also it kind of, to a point, hamstrings the Kai'Sa pick in the lane, and also just generally one-to-one matches up fairly well. I'm not sure if it's necessarily changed with the AP builds and the variants of Kai'Sa though, as that is practically an assassin build, so we'll see how that one ends up unfolding. But for LNG, it's just S-tier picks across the board, right? Nico into K'Sante, Wukong, they're feeling pretty good about their rotations right now.
They are, for sure. This is also, though, I will just say something that OMG, I feel like really were the leader of picking out. Abel going with the comfort of his Tristana, something that he has been played a lot, at least in his career, but also just a lot of that answer into what we were seeing early on and denying a lot of range. It has been really cool to see them pick this one up. It's rely on that comfort, but as you said, the meta does come knocking, and you've got to find answers in that direction. We do get the Kennen for Shanji, so a very comfortable pick for him as well into the K'Sante.
Yeah, definitely one where the Kennen should be relatively undisturbed inside the lane, and as we head into the second ban phase, I think OMG doing the right thing, removing away the Kai'Sa. I wouldn't be surprised as well if they take the Xayah off the board. Right? I think it's about removing the Kai'Sa because of its synergy with, you know, the diving members here of LNG, and you never really want to deal with that. If you've got the Kennen, you probably want to dive in yourself, and having to deal with the Featherstorm is probably a bit too much of a nuisance, so wouldn't be surprised if we see OMG take that off the table. As for LNG, it's about the Nocturne, right? Lights off for Arky, and then straight away, you know, you've got to kind of watch your back as you wonder where that Thunderstorm is going to come from. I feel like another engage jungle is likely on the cards here. Maybe something like the Ppgod, actually, as I think about it. Something that can skirmish really well in the early game. Kindred, yeah, I mean, I feel like Kindred doesn't necessarily fit where OMG are going. I feel like Ppgod can be okay, but maybe LNG have actually hit the nail on the head enough to the point where they can maybe just consider. I mean, they don't want to self-ban an AD carry.
Okay,
Poppy,
Poppy.
okay, Poppy makes sense as well. So just trying to take away as much comfortability as they could. And now Aki's definitely stripped for options, as we're going to see potentially Ahri get locked in, so that'll put the Tristana in the bottom side if this does go through, and it would just generally make a fair amount of sense in terms of Creme's comfortability and his champion pool as well, and LNG will have to look for an answer in the bottom side in this AD matchup specifically. The support's all left open, so Hong shouldn't have too hard of a time. It's about whether or not Gala wants to go towards something like this Aphelios when he's dealing with potentially a Kennen and Ahri diving onto it.
It is a lock-in there. They have literally just started to form Exodia at this point, and the lock-in of the Nautilus makes it so. So one of the compositions that you've seen picked apart across both teams traditionally here in the LPL, and this split, especially this patch, is now just holistically on LNG's side. The last pick here is a crucial one. It's a counter-pick jungle, but it's a fifth pick here that will be a bread and butter for OMG, and something that Aki can play off of, because priority matters so much for OMG, and objective map control does matter for this series as a whole.
Yeah, it definitely does, and when you put it into that context, I'm not sure how confident I am in OMG's draft, but there's a lot of comfort, right? And I think that's the important thing for OMG. We spoke about as we came into the draft that they are a team that likes to just lean on those picks where they are very familiar and they know how to get around them. For LNG, definitely very comfortable across the board, but also just finding themselves on basically the meta staples across the board, right? Very easy to execute champions with very notable power points on item spikes. So I feel like LNG, the path is pretty laid down in front of them. It's quite simple, actually. I feel like for OMG, however, there's so much extra nuance to executing this composition that I feel like this is the perspective we're going to be looking at this game from. How they can actually look to make this one work. There's very limited amounts of CC. The item spikes aren't necessarily like the strongest, so they are really going to have to put their champions to work, and they are going to have to make LNG somehow sweat for this when they are the ones running arguably far more years in champion design on their end.
It's been a bit streaky for LNG, but it's been a complete win streak for OMG to this point. We get a clash of titans here in the top of our table in the LPL Summer split. OMG are taking on LNG in our match of the week, and you know it's going to be a fun one. We got Gala, the new gun for LNG, who has proven he's still one of the fastest hands in the East. But Abel on the other side, he's been the sheriff all along for OMG. 2 hard years of being the carry for this team. It's the Genius ADC versus the Pentakill King as LNG versus OMG kicks off. Game 1 starts now.
And as ever, you can hear it underneath the Gyos ring. Very passionately equal as well. OMG and LNG fans in the house and both representing. And I feel like, Mazel, as we go back to those draft discussions, man, OMG, I'm not sure how we ended up here.
They made it hard. They tied their hand behind their back and they said, let's go. All right.
Look, I'm always down for a good scrap, and I feel like that's what OMG are going to have to look for here. It's just that my only concern is that the ways that they can actually start the fights are going to be so difficult comparatively to where LNG land, right? You know, LNG, you've got the Wukong, you've got Nico, and of course, I didn't mention Nautilus first for a reason. It's because we know what the champion does. So, OMG, I feel like they have their work cut out for them in terms of, you know, strong lanes. I suppose you can try and angle the bottom lane, but I'm not even really sure if it's necessarily a 3v3 you win out, like baseline. So maybe it's the top side where you try and get Shanji ahead, you turn him into a monster, and hope that those slicing maelstroms can be game-changing. Hung does have the exhaust though, as you often do see from supports, or at the very least one member of a team against the Kennen. Now will of course look to hamstring him when he looks for those engages.
Yeah, you literally have to, but I like this move from Aki. Going for a bit of an aggressive path to try to find out Tarzan. The level 2s going to be contested. This is exactly what we wanted to see between these two guys. They are skirmish heavy and they are bloodthirsty. Speaking of bloodthirsty, bot lane taking some heavy trades between the two, but nothing going to come of it just yet. Ships in the night on both sides.
Ships in the night for now, but we're going to need to see more of this from the OMG bottom lane. I think they're going to have to try and do their best to really dominate this 2v2. It can be a little bit difficult for Nautilus to reliably engage on to the Milio lane, and especially with the Tristana having the rocket jump too, it can be a bit awkward. So
the double buffer though is pretty nice for the Nautilus. If you can time it right, you get that like double hook on the dredge line.
Yeah, I guess. But even then, it's still like
hard.
The timing can sometimes be a little bit like the timing can still be so like minute. Like you really have to be on the money with it. Maybe
Ooh, Scout on the money with some skill shots here in mid lane right now, Jamada.
Yeah, it definitely is, and even worse, Creme was a little bit more interested in the cannon than trading back on the Scout. So, I mean, can you blame him? 60 gold or take a reset now and just, you know, buy a Dark Seal or something. Look, all I'm saying is I don't want to have people spamming -1 in my chat if I missed that cannon now. Jokes aside, Aki slipped his way into the red buff here of Tarzan, who
I love this.
had a bit of a...
All right, they met at 2. They didn't want to fight. Now it's 3, and fisticuffs have been drawn. It's a 1v1. Who's going to get the kill? It could be first blood for either side. It's a nice attempt from Hung to get involved, but Scout is here, and it's just an easy first blood for LNG.
Man, I mean, it's really easy for LNG, isn't it? At the end of the day, I understand where Aki's going with this invade. He feels like if he can land the Q onto Tarzan, it's a really, really easy 1v1, but Tarzan just times the flash right. He gets the read on it. And as soon as he doesn't get hit by that Sonic Wave, it's pretty easy to collapse on him. First move as well. Even though Ppgod and Abel have, you know, technically lane priority, Hung has geography diff and can just move over first. So, yeah, unfortunately gets collapsed on, and Scout's the one that actually picks up that kill in a lane where he was already leading. He hasn't actually based yet. He's looking to base now, actually using the clone to potentially... Oh, well, he tried to use the clone to prevent Creme from doing that, but still will have his base disturbed. And let's take a look back at the replay, because...
caveat, I like this from Aki. You've got to kind of do things like this, but it just didn't work out.
Absolutely, absolutely. Unfortunately, Tarzan has a better flash key, and Aki
and teammates.
Well, I don't want to say teammates, but he had faster moving teammates. That doesn't mean they're better. That just means that they moved faster once.
Well, no, he just had teammates there.
Yeah, true.
She didn't. Right. So you
know, not
and then
factually incorrect.
He sees that Aki's now bleeding from the nose, and he's going right back to get some more.
Yeah, I'm surprised he actually didn't look for the 50-50, but maybe because Creme can move a lot faster than Scout currently can. Just opting to not flip it. But he had Smite, and Aki didn't, but he's not ready to know that as Creme
Goodness
is getting...
gracious,
Oh
man.
God.
Creme has the
He's
burn,
dead.
the flash Scout. He's looking for the solo, but he's under tower. Creme, it's a trade of mid laners. Double solo bolo, but bot lane. Gala, the new gun. He's stepping up, and the Sheriff will fall with a gun to the back as a double kill goes through for LNG. And they have now gotten a monumental lead in this early game, Jamada.
Oh, they have, and not only that, like we pointed out to the draft, now it's going to be awkward if they're dealing with a gold deficit as well. I don't want to count OMG out 5 minutes into the game, but they're going to have to make some miracles happen. But this 2v2 going the way of LNG. The only silver lining for OMG is that both the kills went over to Hung, but I mean, I don't know. I've seen Nautilus do some crazy things, and in the mid lane here, Scout winning out in the 1v1 until he decided to eat the charm underneath the tower. It's the classic, but certainly Creme has not been getting the better end of some of the laning trades. Despite that, though, he's actually up 10 CS, which you wouldn't really guess at face value given how the laning's been going. But yeah, it is Scout for now, who is technically has CS deficit, but has definitely been pounding Creme when it comes to those trades.
What I love about both these two teams is LNG are definitely the team that likes to strike early and get first bloods, get first turrets, find early advantages to use those snowballs to get objective control. While on OMG's side, they'll go for first bloods, things like that, but it's really when Baron comes around, the control needs to be there. Oh, Creme taking a pretty heavy trade for the Pop Blossom from Scout, but we're getting that kind of version here, right? LNG have been pretty proactive so far. OMG are looking for their right moment in.
Yeah, and I feel like that was the core strength of LNG in Spring as well. Like, not only were they incredibly calculated, but they were also really, really good at skirmishing. They really understood their limits, as I felt like perhaps OMG overestimated theirs in this 2v2. Oh, the rocket jump out as well. Really, really short from Abel there. I wonder what happened. Potential misclick even. Because he jumps in, procs the explosive charge, and then obviously you get an additional rocket jump back out. But the second one out seemed very, very short. And because of that, they're able to be run down. Graviton, very, very powerful in doing that. And of course, Nautilus, the stick in power this early on. Very good. And generally just LNG watched OMG kind of grief into them a little bit. Both Ppgod and Abel, I feel like they're just minds on different pages there for a second.
All right, I like it. It does mean, though, with that pressure for bot lane and this kind of push going through for Gala and Hung, you do have the Dragon started up under full vision by Tarzan, but not a contest in sight from OMG. They are on the other side of the map with a potential Rift Herald spawn.
Yeah, maybe they can get this Herald on spawn. Shanji's had pretty consistent lane priority up here, as to be expected, right? It's Kennen into a melee champion. Very few champs that can really match or trade Kennen in a manner where he has to really drop that priority. So it should be on spawn, but maybe LNG could... I mean, the bottom side prio looks pretty stacked, right? They were stacking a wave as well, so if Gala and Hung wanted to actually crash this wave and just move up, they realistically could, but I feel like LNG just don't really have their eyes set on this Herald, so looking to maybe just trade out plates instead. Herald actually, it's being dropped.
They're not playing confident.
Why?
There he goes. He goes back in. All right, so we'll be starting out. Tarzan's, though, looking on the bottom side for a secondary play. I mean, they had already gotten the Dragon. Abel will take a bit of a jump into the fight here for LNG, but that Gromp will be all Tarzan's.
Well, I guess. Interesting decisions being made across the... No, he doesn't want the Gromp. Now he wants to dive. The Moonlight Vigil's gone wide for Zell, but they're still going to go for it.
But they get the depth charge, and that's all that really matters. The double Cyclone knockup over and over again. A whirling death does end up in Abel getting a kill back, but that's plates and all the gold you could ask for going to LNG.
Yeah, right. At the end of the day, the gold finally starts to go over into Gala's back pocket, and he's going to get plates. But it's still really... I'm very, very curious about what was going on in the comms on both ends, because LNG could have very plausibly, in my mind, actually contested the Herald as well. And OMG, I feel like Aki just... I'm not sure what the map read was. It seemed like they felt like LNG were actually going to come up and contest the Herald, so they dropped it as well. A little bit awkward for OMG.
What playing Tarzan does to you, man. I'm just saying, this guy is oppressive. And he finds advantage. He will look for invades. He will look for that contest bang. That's why I really liked Aki kind of taking it to him early. But it still does have that presence of mind that Tarzan will look for those aggressions. We don't see anything come down to it. We see the roam from Hung. Not going to really end up in much. We're going to take a look back at that replay for bot lane.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty easy execution. Even though the Moonlight Vigil goes wide, there's not really much movement you can get done between a Depth Charge into double Cyclone, when you're being hit by the clone as well, whilst Gala just wails on you. Very, very unfortunate there. The shutdown, however, was actually traded. Abel did pick up the kill credit onto Hung, so it's not necessarily the worst position to be in, but still, you never really want gold being traded over. This plate, unfortunately, will drop and go over to nobody. As will Creme... No. Creme be caught out. Because if you do, you know, pretend to be the first minion, and you can kind of see there from the vision, you can catch the enemy opponent off guard just because the range creeps don't come into vision, or the fourth one doesn't quite come into vision before you can start that channel up. So I was wondering if he was going to go for the full trade or not. Doesn't quite do it in the end. Either way, I think trying to focus now on like what's OMG's next step. I feel like for LNG the path is pretty cut and dry, right? Keep priority down here on the bottom side as much as you can. Scout's been winning out in the trades, but not necessarily the CS department in the mid lane, so maybe try and help out there, force Creme back, and generally the end result, you want it to be this next dragon. For OMG, it's about the Herald usage and trying to actually get the most gold out of it as you possibly can. But I feel like the reality of the situation is, if you try and drop it bot, numbers are likely going to be there. Maybe you go and give the gold to Shanji, who's already at one item, and try and slingshot him
just got
ahead.
spotted out coming down here. There were so many pings on him as he was walking by that ward just under the TCL banner.
Yeah. This is tough, and now Tarzan's here to collapse, and they're
LNG
still actually here in the alcove.
Absolutely want this fight. They're going to TP in as well. It's double TP time, and we got a 4v4 triple Cyclone there. That's actually big to the pop. Awesome! 3-man there, and it's the lockdown that LNG needed. Shanji is trying to slice through everything here. You get one back at least for Creme, and now he'll have a bit of a reset with that Spirit Rush. But it's Gala standing up to the aggression. Although OMG step forward, Tarzan goes in now, but the clone will be used. He'll be able to get out of that one. A little bit of tricky situation, but it's a back and forth fight in bottom lane.
Yeah, very back and forth. You can see though the skirmishing power of OMG's composition. Very, very online, but that was a 4v5, Mazel. That wasn't a 5v5. Zeka's up here now on the top lane tower, just getting as much gold as he can out of it. Alone, didn't have teleport, had actually just teleported back not too long ago, so he was never going to be able to answer out. So that's now a lead kind of closed back up on the map for LNG as they open the gold back up to a 2,000 gold difference. This Herald's going to be dropped in the mid lane, and Creme isn't actually going to claim any of this. This is all going to go into Aki's. Why is the Herald? Why did the Herald get so close to the tower? Anyway, that side, Creme's reset's even going to get stopped. It's just going to feel a little bit bad, but...
Hung takes a decent amount for it, but you do have that dragon spawning in second one for LNG. Coming into this, it was objective control that was the king of the game, but it's this bottom fight that ends up being a major point early.
Yeah, and I feel like there was a brief moment where LNG were a little bit, you know, hesitant because there was teleports coming down. They didn't want to get caught off guard by, you know, Shanji, his ultimate. But the thing is, the first teleport that comes down was Creme, so whilst they're in this mixer, OMG, they're at no real, you know, savior potential of having that slicing maelstrom really cut off those people that were diving in first from the side of LNG. And the fight that ensues, very, very chaotic, but not much unfolds. And I actually want to call back to that Hung interrupt on the reset, because Creme had, I believe, the Everfrost ready. Now he's only now just reset. It seems like LNG should probably just get this dragon for free. It could actually just come off the back of the fact that Hung got that interrupt onto Creme's really cool. And there will be second dragon, maybe. Maybe they can slip in and find Gala.
Ooh, Gala gets caught here in the end, and that Severum ulti will not be enough. Abel picks up a second kill, and now they can contest this dragon.
Oh, that's so smart. So smart from OMG. So smart from Aki. Just catching the rotation up towards the dragon. Gala doesn't realistically need to be up there, but I think the fact that he comes up anyway means that OMG are able to find that pick, and they split the dragons apart now. And that does put a massive amount of pressure off of their backs, because if they had to stare down potentially an Infernal Soul in the next 10 minutes, that would feel horrible. So good job OMG breaking that apart, and now a little bit of reprieve. Closes the gold up a little bit too, back to 1,000 instead of 2. Definitely starts to feel a little bit good. I still worry compositionally though, you know, between LNG and OMG. I feel like the execution floor is so low for LNG, whereas for OMG, they really have to hit their marks pretty much time and time again. So
yeah, absolutely.
I feel like there's going to be a little bit of preying on LNG's mistakes, but also OMG having to hit that execution threshold as well.
And using those item spikes particularly well as well. Infernal Dragon will absolutely take more priority now on the map. Scout is the priority that OMG see, though, and a third kill goes to this Tristana and a tower in side lane.
Yeah, really, really good stuff. This is the kind of thing that OMG need to do. They just need to turn the map into a little bit of guerrilla warfare, to be honest with you. Like, never really try and offer LNG very easy 5v5s and always try and overload side lanes, overload a specific part of the map where you can just trade out and not necessarily lose too much. It can be a bit of a big ask if you're going to overload one side of the map with some kind of play, but that's, I feel like, the book that OMG need to go down. Otherwise, the 5v5s, I don't know how much easier, if at all, they will get, because again, the execution flaws here of the composition's wildly varying on both ends.
Yeah, and I just love it, right? You're almost at that 67% first tower for OMG. LNG are no slouches in that regard. Both of these teams absolutely search out early advantages. You look at it in objectives. You also look at it in objectives around the map. First bloods, first towers. Very, very exciting that we get kind of that fight back. LNG, we're slowly building up a lead, but it's OMG who clapped back a little bit. You were saying the bar of execution still high. The next eyes are on Tarzan getting out of the map with this Rift Herald, but OMG are not giving out their breath just yet, and they're trying to now move Abel to mid lane and focus around that a little bit more.
Yeah, I think one thing that OMG are going to have to be really on the money with here throughout this game is actually setting vision down, not necessarily for information, but actually just for Shanji to find good flanks. I feel like if you're trying to frontal engage here, you could probably run into some issues as Shanji. Maybe it will work out once or twice if you're very lucky, but I think you want to just find immediate access onto Gala, right? You don't want to have to deal with trying to get through Pop Blossom or Cyclone or any of these big CC tools. You want to just immediately be on top of the AD carry. So whenever OMG find a lane of priority, watch what they're doing on the minimap. See if they're actually trying to get down some deep vision here, just to actually give those points of access over. Like Ppgod's going to be fine. It's just jostling for position around this mid lane tower as the Herald gets dropped. Yeah, exactly. Teleport's actually going to be forced from Creme here.
They
want to fight.
A little bit of finickiness here. Shanji going for a flank. I don't think he was spotted out there.
Either.
But I think he's going for the long con, just in case there's any wards, all right? He's going to go for the long con flank and see if anybody can get caught. Oh, Scout. He finds them as they get the lockdown. Abel, though, with the breath of life for Ppgod is still alive.
Shanji.
And now Shanji, he wants to find that angle. He doesn't know if he's been spotted out yet, but LNG are taking preemptive strikes onto the mid lane, and that's an outer tower down.
Shanji couldn't just quite sink his teeth into the play, could he? All the while, LNG were definitely looking for theirs. They get the tier 1 tower after all. Herald was dropped for it, so LNG get what they came for, and OMG couldn't really find much of a response. They were trying to find a counterpunch, but in the end, I think the fact that Shanji kind of ends up, by the end of the play, twiddling his thumbs a little bit too much. He's just trying to get a little bit too complicated with it, but also the angle was never really a clear one, I feel like, so it's a bit of a harsh one.
I feel like it was, because they didn't actually have vision on him, and they didn't have any vision on the left side of that river wall, but it just is that indecisiveness of knowing, well, if they have me on vision, then I'm going to come in, I'm going to get blown up.
It's about not knowing, right? You never know when a team has vision on you unless they make it abundantly clear, right? So there is that mind game to it. Shanji,
like, if you look here, once he slinks around the corner, like, there's no vision there, so he could have made it, but it's LNG who take that initiation.
Yeah, I think it's because he doesn't just go straight through the red buff, look for the behind angle, right? That's really where he wanted to strike from, but I think the fact that LNG pulled the trigger right as he makes that decision to turn it into a long flank, it's just an unfortunate timing scenario on his part. And LNG get the tower. They get another tower down here as well on the bottom side of the map. Now the Dragon's up. Again, very similar deal. This time OMG haven't really been able to find the lane of priority. They haven't been able to get, a solid ward for Shanji to actually, teleport to. Maybe he finds some kind of path in, or maybe he just looks for the frontal fight, which, how beneficial that is for them, I'm not sure, but
yeah.
See how OMG decide to play it out as LNG waiting around on both sides. Zika's a little bit split off, but he's Cassante. He can always drag someone to their end.
You do have red, white for Gala, and second items completed for Gala for Abel. That's the big one. Slicing Maelstrom has gone in, though. Dragon goes over to OMG. That's actually pretty big, as Shanji is the first one to fall here, though, as Tarzan picks him out, and the Moonlight Vigil connects. And the new gun is stepping up here with that red-white. On the backside, Creme is trying to make their life hell, though. Tarzan's over the wall, and everyone from LNG are pouncing. Look at that chakram line that Gala has, and OMG are just trying to find an escape. They're trying to find Gala. Gala, but you can't step to him. Although they get the combo, it doesn't matter because he just won't go down. Aki falls in the middle of it all, and LNG take more members, take more lives of oh my god.
LNG get almost everything out of the play. The only thing they didn't win out on was that dragon. But they killed just about everyone they have to on OMG's part. Excellent fight from them. And again, it's just the strength of this 5v5 on their end is way too difficult. Oh, teleport. Nope.
Oh, man. Gosh.
I would love to know what he actually saw on that ward.
You think he puckered?
I don't... Well, I think Gala did, but I'm not entirely sure if Shanji actually had complete vision. Either way, going back to this team fight, he wins out on the 50-50. Shanji gets exhausted and unfortunately taken out this fight very early on. And because Creme's kind of 1v1ing Scout, it just allows the remainder of LNG to slowly collapse onto the OMG 3 core. As Abel, I've got to give him credit for just preventing Zika from ever all-outing him backwards, pretty much. But still, 2 new members to deal with at the same time means that he just gets slaughtered. As we come out of the replay, I think there was about to be a scuffle, but fortunately, nothing actually unfolded for us to miss, so we are just back into the action.
Oh,
Abel,
we are not stopping
Abel.
Jamada. They want to find Abel. He does get the rocket jump out. Zika has gone on the backside. Shanji finds a big slicey Melcher, but he can't connect onto Gala. Here comes Scout, though, with the big pop. Blossom to answer right back. He's got to save Gala. You got to save your ADC, but it can't do it. And now Abel might find the resets on the other side, though. Creme, he's getting oh so low. LNG cannot give the fight back, though. And you have both teams as the dust settles. Gala, Aki, and Shanji are down.
It's messy. It's so messy. OMG, you can see scrambling, specifically Aki, to just try and get on top of Gala, kill him. No summoner spells, and of course the exhaust being down meant that for Shanji, he was still the prime target always. Couldn't quite get in range. Whilst the rest of LNG kind of just play defensively to try and keep Mr. President alive. They don't succeed, but they do trade 2 more lives in exchange for it. Really good angle from Shanji as Gala starts to walk up, looking for Abel, right? Trying to follow up on that one. And then as soon as he steps 1-2 steps forward, gets collapsed on, but great depth charge from Hung to just keep him out of danger for now. Shanji gets one shot by Tarzan, unfortunately, and whilst Aki puts in the work for Gala, the rest of OMG aren't really in a position to put out the damage perhaps that they would like to, right? I feel in kindness, mostly Zika just sucking up a lot of that frontline damage, doing a good job of ensuring the rest of LNG can fulfill their roles in trying to keep Gala alive. Whilst they failed that time around, it still ended up in a failure for OMG as a whole.
I think right now, though, I'm looking at the scoreboard. I'm looking at where gold lies in this decent lead, about 3,000 that LNG have. And Tarzan's on 2 items now. He's got the Black Cleaver. The man is sitting at 5-0-4. And I know there was a lot of talk about this man stepping up, but he's doing so in game number 1 on this Wukong, and it's been facilitating a lot of these early skirmishes that Aki was the one opting into earlier on.
Exactly. And the thing is, now that he's at this 2-item mark, full damage as well. Sometimes you'll see, you know, Wukongs, they kind of fall off after Divine Sunder up, and they start to go 10 times. Not Tarzan, not right now.
All gas, no brakes.
All gas, no brakes, and the vision toggle there, a little bit of a bait. Very scary moment as well for OMG as you start to see the darkness sets in. And this is where things can get tricky, because again, for OMG, I feel like they are quite reliant on having Shanji try to find a big ultimate, right? We've seen fights without them, and they've still been relatively close. I feel like that's more in part because LNG haven't necessarily played for, you know, big backline moments, right? No scout in the backline with a big flash pop blossom or Tarzan. It's been more about the 1 or 2 member pickoff as opposed to those bigger, you know, montage moments. So OMG have been a little bit fortunate in that regard. But still, 3,000 gold down. Take a quick zoom out before we get to this dragon as it spawns up. Well, I was going to talk about the items, but the gold's there. It's effectively just actually even, despite this 3k gold lead, right? Everyone has 2 items. So the gold lead's a little bit fake. It's fake data right now. It's more about how approaches to these objectives can actually be set up. As OMG, it looks like they're just going to yield this dragon, go up towards the top side here. Ark is going to walk over a ward. Are they considering a Baron? They are not. They're just clearing the vision for now. But you can see it's making LNG double think, right? They have to double take on whether or not they want to insta-start this dragon, because OMG have almost complete darkness here. They had information on that one ward LNG, and now it's going to pull them over as they start to just use blues, vision resources, whatever they have to.
Got games of chicken going on here.
Yeah, I mean, for OMG, I think OMG have kind of acknowledged that the setup around the dragon for them is not necessarily the best. I wonder if they feel like there's more setup around the dragon for LNG in terms of vision. And this is why they're committing so heavily as well.
Yeah.
It's a bit of both. So they're going to
whole
start the
time,
Baron
though.
again. Yeah, they're going to start this Baron again. Soul Point nowhere near. Because remember, it was LNG with only one dragon. But being very half-hearted about this one, only this Shanji is just waiting in the wings because he knows he has to find a big ult. But LNG just aren't committing anywhere.
Oh, Creme.
Oh.
Getting a little bit close there. Did have the flash, does have the Spirit Rush available. But LNG, they pilot the stressful situation that OMG was presenting them quite well.
Yeah, I have to say, they fought their way out of it, didn't they? Just kind of stood them in the eye. And I feel like it was OMG that definitely blinked first.
You can't do this. You can't do this.
Exactly. It's good to see LNG, think their way out of that one. Because that is kind of how LNG operated in Spring. They were a much more cerebral team comparatively to some of the teams around them. And more in the sense of it was tangible. You could see the decision making on your screen, and sometimes that can be a little bit difficult to interpret from gameplay. LNG was very clear, and what's very clear is they've started up this Baron because they've got the guns on Gala, and they feel like OMG they want to try and get Shanji's teleport out. I think that's the big thing.
There it is. All right, they'll just turn after that. Scout is in position for a pop. Lost about 2 members. Moonlight Vigil as well, and Abel's just gone out of the fight like a dissection on the surgery table right now. LNG are clean.
That was really, really good from LNG. It was just a call. They understood. They wanted Shanji's teleport. Scout, whilst it looks a little bit awkward, Creme could be in trouble.
He's got the rest of LNG coming right over the wall here.
Oh,
Scout find and predicts the move over the wall from Creme. Creme goes right back over, though, trying to dip, dive, duck, and dodge, but you can't dodge the wrench that LNG's about to throw at you. Make it an anchor as Tarzan gets the kill, and that's Baron in the eyes of LNG.
Right over the back of the head with that anchor, and LNG should get this Baron. Maybe OMG can make it awkward. Shanji's got ultimate. Aki's on the back of the pit. He's in there.
Aki's in the pit. He's going down, though, and he can't stay alive. The Baron goes over. The kills go over. And right now, it's all LNG.
It's all coming up LNG right now, and they should be able to strip away the remainder of these tier 2s at the very least with this Baron. That's going to be the objective, if not more, if they can find it. OMG kind of just scrambling now at this point, right? You could understand the thought process behind giving up that dragon, trying to turn it into a Baron, but they were never able to really convert. And off the back of it now, LNG, not only have they secured it themselves, but they picked up a whole bunch of kills alongside it. Creme gets caught out on the top side. The bait from the teleport earlier on, the start of the sequence of this play as well.
This one right here.
Smart stuff. He predicted. Oh,
that's what I was saying in the call. Like, that's just nuts, man.
Good job, man. That was really, really solid.
Dude, this Scout has just been on one. He has spent so much time on EDG, found so much success, honestly, with them. But since coming to LNG, this man's just been built different.
He really has. In the replay, Shanji pops his art. Maybe about 2 ticks go off and then he dies. Aki goes into the Baron pit when there's about 2,500 damage left on it, so isn't able to burst it out. And LNG, very disciplined in not actually taking it down. So now, this is the point in the game where they can look to try and take out these tier 2s. Aki's actually looking for an extended run around onto Scout, but unfortunately for himself, they won't be able to find it whilst that's going on. LNG just picking up towers, and Zika and Gala, if they want to, they could actually continue here, but I think they're just being a little bit too respectful, to be honest with you, to OMG right now. Hung and Tarzan can go over the wall if they really have to. They have a missed opportunity for me, to be honest with you, Mazel, whilst this is also happening. Creme's on the top side, so he's got pressure up there.
He's on a tier 2
Tarzan can
too.
return back to mid as well. Yeah, he might actually end up getting the tier 2. To be honest, he's been left with so much time. A little bit hesitant, maybe, LNG, right? Maybe feeling a bit pressured by Creme down here, but...
Wow, that's actually big.
Yeah, I mean, not necessarily the best Baron in the world. I mean, they're actually down, because remember, the Baron itself, when you see that marker in the top right, the Baron power play, starts you off at a neutral 1.5k, because that's the 300 gold that every member gets for Baron. They're down 1.2, 1.3k gold off the back of picking up that Baron. So good job, OMG rather, for defending this one and making it a little bit awkward. The objective bounties as well made that one a little more gold positive too. So for LNG, not being able to crack open the base or at the very least strip away these tier 2s definitely feels like an opportunity missed.
Yeah.
Though with 30 seconds left, they can probably take this one down, right? It's super low. So it's not a complete failure, but
I will
not
say
necessarily the best you wanted out of it.
We have 3 item spikes coming, and 3.5 now, at least for Abel. But we do have some really strong power spikes for both sides. But the fact that LNG are rocking 3 items on, you know, a trio of members right now does feel a little bit better. I do still look to Abel to be this genius ADC, to be the man that can carry OMG across the line, but he's gonna have to thread that needle somehow. And Scout's looking for a flank again. He flashes over. The Pop Blossom timing is just so damn lethal. You can't expect what you can't see. And LNG have smacked OMG blind here in game 1.
That was ridiculous from Scout. Not only did he find the angle, there was no possible reaction time. He flashed on the perfect frame to ensure the knockup was there. Aki, my friend.
Aki's just
I am afraid.
going down, man. He's it's you know, going down with the ship, right? It's been a fun journey, gentlemen. He goes down as well to the depths, and OMG have fallen apart in this game 1. We asked LNG, what do you do when you go up against top teams? How did you lose 2-0 to IG? And all the question marks that LNG have had all over their back. Well, they answered in kind here in game 1.
Much better look for LNG as a whole as they take that inhibitor in the top side, and seems like they'll be forced away on this mid lane inhibitor. Creme just sending a little bit of poke damage back out, but we'll take some in kind. Scout
tries to go right back for it. They're like, hey, we got ultis up again. Let's see what happens.
Oh
my God.
Okay, so Aphelios is nerfed on 13-13, thankfully, but I think he's still going to be able to do that. I don't think that part has changed.
200 years.
Yeah. Well, OMG will try and pick up this dragon. In all fairness,
they burned
they'll be able to do
There's
it.
no response.
So, I don't know. Zeka EQ. Well,
cope.
They'll make their way out. Yeah, I feel like for OMG, this game's probably over. Barring some kind of miracle, like 5-man slicing Maelstrom where Gala doesn't flash Ghost or use his stopwatch. But anyway, look at this. Look at this perfect frame.
Dude,
there's you just can't react to that. There's just no way. There is just no way you can react to that. It's just so disgusting. So yeah, for OMG.
Oh God.
That's the final nail in the coffin, it feels like. And LNG now can just take control of the top side, deny away all this vision, and just ensure that OMG never have an easy time approaching this Baron and burn it down themselves, or force OMG into a bad fight, into just a game end. And again, we kind of felt like the composition, right, the execution floor, super high for OMG. But not only that, if they were to win out on fights, it relied heavily on Shanji actually being able to find the backline, and I feel like the first step to him finding that backline was trying to set up a little bit of vision, but if you never have priority, you never get that first step in the first place.
I do, however, I know, Mazel's Hopium Emporium. I really, really like the Lord Dom spike for Tristana, especially against a composition like this where you do have a decent amount of tankiness even on non-tanky members. But it is still a 9,000 plus deficit they got to dig themselves out of. And as that grab connects, Creme's going to have to pop the Spirit Rush. Does mean his ulti is going to be utilized. Maybe they could try to find an engage off the back of it, but Baron is on the table, and one swoop would mean LNG win the game. That Bramble over the wall there is going to be nicely done as Zika finds it, and then the Pop Blossom, as you thought the Reaper came once to OMG, it comes twice as the nails in the coffin seed the death of OMG in game 1.
Death came once in the form of that first Pop Blossom underneath the tier 2. I don't think he was quite happy with his work. Creme is going to be taunted outside the base.
Give Hung a kill. Give him the kill.
Hung the kill.
Hug, get the kill. No, observers come back. I want to see Hug get the kill. Oh my God. Gala, come on, man. Oh, okay. Well, you know what? Hung, you deserve all the love. You should be mad right now. But OMG should be pretty upset. They didn't pilot the composition that needed a high bar of execution to fruition, and that's gonna have to come back to the drawing board for game 2 for them.
Yeah, it's gonna have to for sure. And